Welcome back everyone. Today, as you may have gathered by the title of this video, I want to talk to you about Sunset Hour by Goldfield Banks. This is a relatively new fragrance. It was launched in Australia late last year, I think, or at least in the last quarter of last year. And I wanted to talk to you about it today for a couple of reasons. The first being that I believe this is about to launch in the US. So those of you overseas, if you're interested in it, you might want to know a little bit more about it. And the second reason I want to talk about it is because this has surprised me, and I have now worn through two of these samples. This is the second sample and it is completely drained, so completely empty. And I found this one actually quite intriguing, so hence I decided I might talk about it. So before I get into talking about my experience with this fragrance, I will just read you the notes that are listed on the card. I know I don't normally do that, but this is a single fragrance video, so probably worthwhile giving you a little bit more information about it. And second of all, it might help you to try and picture what it is that I'm talking about when I'm talking about my experience of wearing this fragrance. So the notes are Italian mandarin, Australian desert peach, paracord, raspberry, jasmine sambac absolute, Nigerian ginger, Madagascan pink pepper, Australian sandalwood, Madagascan vanilla, cashmere wood, and benzoin from Laos. This fragrance opens very fruity, as you can imagine. There are a lot of fruit notes listed in here. And for that reason, when I had my very first sniff of this fragrance, I decided very quickly that I didn't think I was going to like it that much, because it was that very first opening is extremely fruity and mouth-wateringly juicy. And whilst it's a pleasant smell, it's not the kind of thing that I normally go for to smell like in a perfume. However, quite quickly, that fruitiness, that really juicy fruitiness starts to settle down, and the fragrance develops a bit more of a softness about it. And actually, after a few minutes, I start to get quite a bit of the ginger note, which I didn't necessarily pick up as ginger when I first smelled it, but it does have that sort of spicy warmth about it that is characteristic of ginger. And after about 15 or 20 minutes, I also start to get what I believe to be the vanilla. And what I like about it is that it's not that uniform, unrepentant vanilla that just bombards you and bombards you and bombards you. For me, that vanilla kind of flashes forward and back a little bit throughout the wear. So I'm not getting vanilla all the time, which I really like about it. It's a little bit coy. It's dancing in and out between the fruit notes primarily to start with, and then it also sort of moves around the florals as well as they start to emerge. The fruit notes also don't stay the same throughout the wear of this fragrance. The fruit notes are detectable all the way through the wear of this fragrance, from the opening all the way through to the dry down. But what I like about this fragrance is that those fruity notes don't stay that really super sweet, juicy, mouth-watering type of fruit that you sort of get at that very, very opening. They progress a little bit into a more sort of chewy fruit, or maybe fleshy fruit is the more accurate description. And they're not as sweet. The sweetness dies down a little bit. So it's kind of like a more sophisticated, slightly less playful, but still flirty fruitiness. It's around this point in the wear where I get a little bit confused with this fragrance. And I'm saying confused because I seem to get something that's almost herbal about it. I feel like I get just a hint of green. There's cashmere wood and sandalwood in this, so maybe I'm getting woodiness, but I feel like I'm getting a herbal kind of element in this fragrance, and I can't figure out what it is that's doing that. Maybe it's just the way that the different notes are playing together, but there's sort of a a freshness to it, that crispness that you can sometimes get with herbal notes, but also a little bit of that dustiness that you get with herbs. And again, I get almost a bit of a greenness to it. And it doesn't actually last that long, but I do get it throughout different points in the wear. But it's around about the 1 hour to 2 hour mark that I start to really pick that up. And then from that point on, it's like it becomes a little bit more fluffy. The whole fragrance becomes a little bit more fluffy and a little bit more dense, and still soft though. So I think maybe just getting a little bit more of an amberiness about it. At around about the 3 to 4 hour mark, I find the fruits are really starting to take more of a back seat. They're still there, but they're just not as prominent as they were before. I'm definitely getting more woodiness at that point as well. And the woodiness is not overly sharp or crisp. It's quite soft, so I don't find that it leans too masculine like it would if it was a really dry, spicy, crisp wood. And it's still soft, but the fluffiness that I was experiencing a little earlier has now given way to more of a creaminess. Beyond that point of the wear, I didn't feel like the fragrance changed that much anymore. It stayed pretty much the same. I feel like I got really good wear out of it, and I really enjoyed wearing it. Overall, it just starts out really fruity, and then it morphs into a slightly floral, more woody, kind of spicy, fruity dry down. And it's really, really interesting and pretty. And I say pretty because that's how I felt wearing it. And whilst I know people are saying it is a unisex fragrance, and I do believe men could wear this and pull it off without too much hassle, I do feel it leans maybe slightly on the feminine side. As for longevity, I felt like it had died down to more of a skin scent at around the 3 hour mark. However, I think that might have been a misconception on my part, because I went to a music lesson that afternoon at about, I think I'd had it on my skin for about maybe 4.5 hours at that point. And my music teacher said that I smelled nice. She commented on it. And we are social distancing at the moment, so we're sort of 2 meters apart, and we were wearing masks, and she could still pick up my fragrance, and she complimented me on it, which is always a bit of a novelty for me, because people don't normally compliment me on my fragrances, and they certainly don't ever even notice them. So, or if they do, they don't tell me. So I thought that was worth mentioning, the fact that even though I felt it had died down to being quite an intimate fragrance, she could still clearly smell it. So it could have just been that I just wasn't smelling it as much anymore because it had been on my skin for several hours at that point. It is a very breezy style fragrance. It's a very casual, easy to wear kind of fragrance. And whilst it is a fruity floral / fruity woody kind of fragrance, I find that this has a bit more of a softer edge, a slightly more sophisticated air about it than a lot of other really sweet, fruity, floral fragrances that might compete in the same category as this perfume. And for that reason, I find it much more wearable than a lot of other fragrances in this genre. If you already have a lot of fruity, floral type of fragrances in your wardrobe, you may not need to add another one to it. But I personally really enjoyed wearing this, and I think I would like to wear it more. So that's all I have to say about it, really. I really enjoy wearing it. It's not the type of thing that I would have thought I would have gone for. I certainly didn't expect to go through 2 samples of it. One sample I bought from Goldfield Banks off their website when it launched, and then the other sample was sent to me when I bought a fragrance from a perfumery not too long ago. So I was lucky to be able to get another sample of it to really get a decent wear out of it. But as I mentioned, it's not the type of fragrance that I normally go for, and that was a pleasant surprise, I suppose. And it just goes to show that I need to keep an open mind when I'm sampling perfumes and really give them time and pay attention to them, because I could have so easily have written this off in those first few seconds when it was really fruity and sweet, thinking that it wasn't my type of thing, and maybe even washed it off and then just not revisit it. And I really have found that in the last 12 months, my taste in perfume has changed quite a bit. I really am enjoying the more sweet things, and I am enjoying fruity florals and light breezy florals, which before I was very much more into woody and ambery type fragrances. So I feel like a whole new world of perfumery has opened up to me, and it's really exciting and it's fun. Anyway, let me know if you've tried it and what you thought about it. And again, I believe it's launching in the US in early Feb. So if you haven't had a chance to get a sample of it or to smell it yet and you're overseas, then you will be able to very soon. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for watching, if you're still watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.